Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good evening. I do have Amit Duvedi to the podcast to discuss the ICC Men's T20 World Cup. Hi, Amit. How are you doing?
Hey, Sri.
All
Happy to
right.
join.
Good. And we're here to the ICC T20 Cricket Championship is in full flow uh, for the first time ever. It is in the United States and the West Indies. The matches are still going on. As a matter of fact, we do have the New Zealand and West Indies match going on. But from an interest standpoint, um, let's focus on the matches that are near and dear to our heart, which is we had the India match today that they beat US. The US gave a great fight back to India. But then the match we all want to talk about was what happened this past weekend between India and Pakistan. And then we can talk a little bit about the India and USA, a little bit about one of the greatest upsets in T20 history, which USA upsetting Pakistan. And then in general, just talking about, which teams from each of the groups A, B, C, D make it to the Super 8. Fair enough? All
Yeah,
right.
sure. Let's
So
jump into
I'm
it.
going to give you the floor to talk about a little bit about the India-Pakistan first, and what you thought was critical in turning the tide on Pakistan when all things didn't look good for India.
Yeah, I mean, now we have seen a few of these matches, right? Since the India-Pakistan match, there has been the Pakistan-USA match and India-USA match, and it was pretty much the same pattern, right? Which is not easy to bat and all that. But when we were watching the India-Pakistan, that was a little bit new, right? So I thought, like, when India scored, we're like 80, I think in 10 or 11 overs,
Mhm.
humming along, right? At that time, like a 160 target looked very realistic and like totally doable. I think Aksar and Pant were playing, and still Hardik and Jadeja and Dubey were still to come. I'm actually and Surya maybe, and Surya as well. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of firepower, right? And then I think in all these matches, what has happened is somehow after like a side looks good in the first 10, 12, 13 overs, and then something happens after that. So that happened to India. And when they're like 119, I'm like, this is, that won't work. And, Pakistan was humming along, right? They were also, what, 80? 80 for 2, 3, something like that in 14
57
overs?
for two. They were 57 for two when that critical wicket fell.
Yeah,
57 in 10 overs, I think.
right. And I think they were 80 in 14 overs. So they
Yeah.
needed like 40 runs in 6 overs, something like that, in with 7 wickets in hand. I mean, that, yes, the pitch was tough and all that, but you would have thought. So I think, I mean, I did not expect, even only when it was like last over and 18 runs, we were like, oh man, India can actually win, right? Like till then, it was like, my whole focus was like, if India is going to lose, then don't lose by huge margin because it will come down to net run rate to qualify. All those things I was focused on. I thought Pakistan choked. I think one of the mistakes that they made was that
Mhm.
they should have been a little bit more, I don't know, aggressive, but they took it a little bit easy. They didn't push the run rate hard enough, and suddenly you look up the scoreboard, and now you need more than 6 and over, and then suddenly some wickets fall, and then runs are getting harder. Then it's 7 and over, then it's 8 over. And I think on that pitch, I think if any side needs like 40 of the last 5 overs, I think it's very hard, no matter who's batting. It just seemed to be that kind of a pitch. It was very hard to hit. So I think the mistake that they did was let the run rate get out of hand. Something that was like they were just cruising along completely, and they let it go out of hand. So yeah, it was a shocker. The outcome was a shocker. Bumrah was like just way too good. And then bowlers like Hardik and all also. Siraj, I thought, bowled. He didn't get wickets, but like he was like 3 overs 8 runs or something, and then last over he gave some runs, but so pretty good support from Hardik and Siraj, and Bumrah obviously stole the show.
Absolutely. I mean, Arshdeep was actually one of the more, I would say, expensive bowlers, but he did. The last over was actually a beauty. I mean, he did bowl pretty well in the last over. Obviously, like you said, Siraj was 4 for 19. Bumrah was, of course, I mean, 14 runs and 3 wickets. But and I think you're right. I mean, I was just looking it up. I think it was they were 80 for 4 in 14 overs, and that pretty much means that you only have like 40 runs to chase in 6 overs, which is quite possible, which is run a ball, run a ball pretty much.
But I think they just lost Rizwan. I think Rizwan was the fourth wicket, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He was the only settled batsman there, right? So that
Yes.
was a big blow.
Yes.
Right.
And once they got it, once even Shrikant was saying in his post game that Pakistan bats top 5 heavy, and after that it was curtains down for Pakistan. And
Not
then
even top 5, man. I mean, I've never seen, other than Rizwan and Babar, anyone consistently score in that lineup. Fakar Zaman is too erratic.
and then
On his
Mark
day, he can
Wasim.
beat anyone. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I think it's
Yeah.
just those two.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I did see Rohit's post game where he did talk about that they were probably about 15 to 20 runs short, and I think even before the match started, some of the commentators like Shrikant were saying that 140 was a par winning score. 120 did look in doubt. I mean, definitely when Pakistan was chasing it, and technically speaking, they should have won. And the some of the people that I know who were at the game definitely talked about as Pakistan was collapsing. Uh, the crowd definitely, the crowd definitely got loud, and it seemed like 95 to 96% were Indian fans
Yeah.
there in the stadium, and you
Well,
could see it. It was definitely a sea of blue, and the pressure.
right.
It almost felt that they were playing at home. I mean, India was playing at home,
Right.
and then the pressure got to them once they started chasing, and then it was curtains down for them. So
Yep.
there you have it. So India, like I said, based on today's performance, they have indeed qualified for Super 8. Um, they'll definitely be there. But just talking about Pakistan itself, Pakistan suffered one of probably the greatest, I would say, the upsets in the history of T20 World Cup, losing to the United States. Um, and that was indeed a shocker. I didn't expect that it went to a super over, and Pakistan bowling really let them down in that super over, 3 wides, I think, and then one of the techies Oracle guy actually helped USA win it. So huge upset for USA. And then we'll talk a little bit about USA and India too. So now coming back to Pakistan, what do you think are the chances? They have 2 points from 3 matches. They still have a match against, I believe, against Ireland.
Yeah.
No,
I
I
mean,
do
it's a
think they
pretty
play
simple
Canada.
math.
They play Canada. Um, and then USA
No, they
plays
play Canada.
Ireland.
So they have to play Ireland.
They have to play
It's a pretty
Ireland.
simple math for them, right? It is basically they have to win. So they can't afford the. I think I read that the weather is like a little bit iffy. I mean, they have to hope that the match doesn't get rained out. I mean, they'll obviously beat Ireland. The net run
It's
rate
in
now doesn't matter.
Florida, right? It is in Florida.
It's in Florida, yeah.
Okay.
And then also in Florida is the Ireland US match. So they need Ireland to beat US and they need to beat Ireland. And both those matches are in Florida. And both those matches, there's a little bit of a threat of uh, rain. So,
Okay.
I mean, miracles can happen, but they've let things get to a stage where now, I mean, they could have won both of those matches, right? That they lost.
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
came so
Pakistan
close,
should
right?
be on top of the league right now.
Right. So now it's, I think they're reliant on, I think the tougher thing is, well, they have to hope that the weather allows both the matches to happen. Because even if they beat Ireland, but Ireland and US match is rained out, US gets in. That's the problem for Pakistan. So They need the weather gods to cooperate. They will beat Ireland, and then they need Ireland to beat USA. I mean, it could happen. I mean, who knows? Maybe the US team has a letdown, but they've looked so professional. And when I remember when they were playing against Pakistan and when they're chasing that total against that Pakistani bowling attack, I mean, they kind of panicked in the end, but for the first 15 overs, amazing. And they were chasing like 159, right? This was not the New York pitch. It was amazing. Like they look very calm and composed and, all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's going to be very interesting. What's going to happen with Pakistan? But coming back to uh, what do you think about what USA has so far done? Obviously,
It's amazing.
I mean, I'm very impressed. I mean, even today's match
Yeah.
against
Yeah.
India, a 10 for 2. No, a 10 for 2. It did look
Yep.
pretty
No,
dicey
it looked
for
dicey.
India.
I mean, Pant also departed early. It looked dicey,
True,
right?
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. And I definitely was shocked at how good USA was playing. I mean, to your point, the third wicket fell when it was 39 for 3. So India still had to chase, close to, what's that, 80 runs? Close
Mm-hmm.
to 80 runs, right? And anything
Yep.
could have happened. Anything could have happened.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
In fact, it came tough even towards the end. I think Dubey was kind of struggling to score. Even Surya was, and it was like 5 overs and 35 runs,
hmm,
which I remember at that point thinking this is not a slam dunk at all.
hmm,
And then they got that 5 run, the penalty on US, so it reduced the target by 5.
hmm.
And it might seem like only 5 runs, but at that time, going from 35 to 30 without a ball bowled, I think that made a difference. Now, in the end, I'm pretty sure even with 5 overs, 35 runs without the penalty, they would have won probably with an over to spare. But still,
Yeah, they did win with 10 balls to spare.
it
But
was looking
right.
a bit dicey. And the last 2-3 matches at the same venue, it was proven that you just couldn't hit away, right? I mean, so yeah, it's
I'm very
interesting.
impressed with US. I mean, what they've been able to put up with. I
Oh,
mean,
it's amazing. Amazing, both with
amazing.
the bat and the ball and in the field. Like,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
composed. They didn't look like this, like newbie side at all. Very composed, is my impression.
And they do say catches win matches and catches also lose matches. There was a very critical drop.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of Sky, I believe.
Right.
And that, who knows, that could have changed. I mean, of course, India has a pretty good
No,
track.
no, that would have changed because that would have been like, I don't know, 50 for 4 or something like that. And now suddenly, Dubey is the main guy, and then Hardik's not in form, Jadeja is not in form, right? I mean,
And Aksar is probably one batsman in form, actually.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
It was a bit dicey for sure.
exactly. And then, coming back to the other thing right now, it looks, I'm watching the New Zealand match right now.
Yeah, they're going to lose. Me too.
Yeah, they could potentially lose as well.
No,
I
they'll
mean,
be out.
and they could
If
be
they
out.
lose this, they're out of the tournament,
Yeah,
pretty
and I
much.
think that could be it. I think, Phillips just
Mm-hmm.
hold out. I think that could be it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
New Zealand could definitely, uh, bounce out of the World Cup because with Afghanistan and West Indies is definitely going to go to 6
Yeah, I
points.
think Afghanistan will go. Yeah, I don't know if those two teams have played. So probably whoever wins their game, Afghanistan West Indies, is probably going to win the. It will be number 1, and the other one will be number 2 in Group D. I think
No,
in
West
Group A
Indies
it's
and
going to be
Afghanistan play like on Monday. So,
right.
so you're right. I think they're both going to go. West Indies is going to go to 6 points.
Right.
Afghanistan, the maximum they can go if they lose to West Indies. I think I don't see like Uganda. Even if Uganda wins, I mean,
No.
I don't
It's
see that
it's
the run
it's
rate is.
done. It's Afghanistan 1 and West Indies 2, or vice versa.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what's
true.
going to happen in
So
that
you
group.
could see potentially right now. I see in Team A, it could be India, USA, or Pakistan. Let's be realistic.
No, it'll be India USA. I think Pakistan has a low chance. Let's put it that way.
Okay. And then in the other B, it's going to be very interesting. We've got Australia at 6 points, Scotland at 5,
Right.
England at 1. Um, Scotland is
So
actually in a much better state right now. We're looking at it.
right. So England needs massive help from the weather gods as well because they
Mm-hmm.
have to win the remaining 2 games. Granted, they are against like weak teams, so they'll win those games. But those games have to happen, not get rained out. England got very unlucky with that Scotland game, and then they need Scotland to lose their remaining 2 games, and one of those games is against Australia, which they lose, but the second one is against a lesser side.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh no, yeah, exactly. So that they are in trouble, man. I mean, if Scotland wins the remaining game, they're out,
They're out.
no matter what
So
happens.
and then, like we said, it's Afghanistan, West Indies, and then coming to the last group, you got South Africa at 6, but it's wide open because you got Bangladesh, Netherlands at 2 points
Actually,
each.
Sridhar, I misspoke. I'm very sorry. I think you said Scotland is at 5 points.
Scotland is at 5 and Australia is at 6.
So Scotland has played 4 games then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 3?
Scotland
Whom
has
have?
played 3.
Oh, they haven't played
Scotland has
Australia.
played
They don't
3
have two
with
games left.
one of the
Yeah.
matches that Scotland played was
Australia.
rained out. That was the
Right. That was the England one.
England one.
Then they
Yes.
won the against 2 weak teams. So they have only 1 game left. So let's assume Scotland loses to Australia. So England will have to hope that those matches happen, and then they have to win by massive margins. I think there's a shot, but like weather could play a role as well.
Well,
But
England is going to beat Oman tomorrow, and
right,
then they're going to beat Namibia. So England,
right.
with the next 2 matches, they could get
The,
for 4 matches.
but the run rate is pretty low right now. The net
Right,
run rate
is
is way below
very low.
Scotland's
Yes,
net run rate.
exactly. But England is going to, they're going to pile up on Oman and
I think
Namibia.
as long as those games happen, like they don't get rained out, I think England has a shot to make the number 2.
Okay, yeah, I do think so. I mean, they would go 4 matches. They would get up to they could get they could only get to maximum of
5 points.
5 points, and
Right.
but Scotland
Well,
has a run rate
So
of
no, it'll come to net run rate because
net run
Scotland is
rate.
not going to beat Australia. So
Yep,
Scotland will
right,
stay at 5.
right.
England will beat these other 2, so they'll go to 5. Then it'll come to net run rate. So they have to hope Scotland loses by a huge margin and then they win by a huge margin. It's possible.
Yes,
I think the weather is the X factor.
Australia and Scotland play on Saturday. So let's see if Australia will ease up a little bit on Scotland, considering that they probably don't want England in the Super 8.
Uh-huh.
So,
Right.
I mean, even now, with most of the most 3 matches being played for most of them, I think by tomorrow or but by this weekend we'll have every team played 3 matches or even 4. So that's when a lot of these things will be much clearer.
Yeah, but it'll come to the last game, like for like that division or even the Pakistan, like our division, it'll come down to like the whole thing being over. I mean, I think Pakistan plays Ireland, I think next weekend or something like that. So there's a chance if US beats Ireland before that, then that game won't matter. So maybe that game gets over soon. But yeah. Anyway, so and then in the third group, it's South Africa as the clear favorites, and then Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. One of the 2 is probably going to make it.
I think with the last one you got South Africa, but that's wide open. You got South Africa, Bangladesh, Netherlands.
Yeah, but I think South Africa has beaten.
Oh no, South Africa is already in. I think they're in. So
right.
The clear cuts are South Africa, India, Australia,
Afghanistan,
West Indies, and
right.
Afghanistan. Those teams are locked.
Those five, and then one out of Sri Lanka and Bangladesh.
Yeah, no. What I meant is like in the Super 8s, we can pretty much say India is in, Australia is in, Afghanistan,
West Indies.
Afghanistan, West Indies, that's 4.
And South Africa.
And South Africa is 5.
And then we know for sure that one of Sri Lanka and Bangladesh is in. So that'll be the 6th one.
Well, I think it could be Netherlands or Bangladesh because Sri Lanka only has 1 point in 3 matches, while Bangladesh and Netherlands have 2 points in 2 matches. So
okay, so that is wide open. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And then here's the interesting thing. So I didn't know the format, so I looked up what the format was for the Super 8. So India's finished number 1 in the division, right? So no, I don't think so. Nothing can change that.
Mhm.
unless they lose to Ireland, or Canada, which I doubt will happen. So um, India will play the second seed in Group D. Group B. So which is most likely going to be England, could be Scotland.
Mhm.
Then they're going to play the second seed in Group C. So not Australia.
Right.
So it'll be one of Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, or Netherlands. And then the first one in Group D, which is going to be either West Indies or Afghanistan. It's kind of interesting. So if somehow Scotland ekes through, right, um, and there like someone like Netherlands ekes through, you could have India playing Scotland, Netherlands, and like Afghanistan.
Wow.
I
That's
mean, I don't think all of that will happen, but it's interesting how that shapes up.
exactly. So it is well set up for India right now. First thing is that India is in the Super Eights. That's important. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
were the wins pretty because the if you look at it, the only one which was convincing was the Canada game. The other two matches, I mean, the Pakistan match was.
No,
Uh,
not Canada, Ireland.
oh, no. India. I'm talking about the Ireland match. Sorry, you're right. The Ireland match was the easy one.
Right.
Both the West Indies, both the Pakistan and the um,
USA.
USA were actually, you know, I mean, I know they beat USA. I mean, they could have easily won against USA, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't think Pakistan was a done deal
Mm-hmm.
until that. So this is great because you would have it'll be great to see USA qualify too. But
Yeah.
but again, just watching this New Zealand game, I didn't realize that um, West Indies were 58 for six.
I think West Indies looks very dangerous. I mean, I think, they are the home side. They know the conditions.
And yeah,
The other big thing is I think my impression is that the Super 8s onwards, it shifts entirely to the West Indies. Is that true?
yes,
Like all
exactly.
the matches?
Yeah.
Okay, so gone is the New York pitch. I think in some ways the New York pitch, like, okay, this is my theory. I don't know if you agree or not. I think compared to let's say South Africa, Australia, England, at least those three sides, maybe even West Indies. I think what those sides have is like better, like pure six hitters than India. Right? India has more of the accumulators and all that. I mean, of course, there are exceptions. So the theory is that if it's a bowler friendly wicket, that neutralizes some of the advantages that these other teams have in like when it's pure power hitting in the last, let's say, 5 overs.
Mhm.
Okay. So by that logic, on low scoring pitches, India will do better because they have a good bowling attack, a decent bowling attack. And then, they have these accumulators and all that. I mean, I know in New York, they lost quite a few wickets in both the matches, but still, like, actually today they still won with like 7 wickets to spare, right? Like, so they have these accumulators. And Kohli is going to hit form sometime. I mean, it's so rare for him to see like three very low scores. He's going to hit form. So it's interesting. Now suddenly you don't have these New York pitch, so the Florida pitch itself will tell us, like, because Canada scored like 194 in Dallas, right? Like
Mhm.
against the same US attack. So Canada is not a totally weak team. We'll see how that game goes actually. So I want to see how India will perform in West Indies, where maybe the games will seem to be more higher scoring, right, than what's happening in New York. I think New York is the sole exception, right, with such low scores.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I think in one way or the other, it's very interesting from the scores that we are so used to seeing in IPL. This has been a complete revelation in terms of, except I think there's only one match, I believe, that 200 was crossed. That was by Australia against England, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, look at like Travis Head, right? Like he's so good. Who's going to like? I mean, if you play against Australia and if you don't get that guy out quickly, you're in trouble,
Well, I mean,
right?
today is a perfect example. They chased 70 odd runs in 5.5 overs.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
That is ridiculous.
that
Yeah.
is ridiculous. Yes. So again, thanks, Amit. But I think once we get to Super 8, I'm sure that we want to come back once we to analyze each of that because every team gets a chance to play with the
Everything gets a
team.
chance, and things are going to be different. I think it's almost like a new tournament starts because the venues shift, right? At least for a team like India or Pakistan, who's played a lot of matches in the at least for like Group A was like a lot of US matches, right? I haven't tracked what it was. I think South Africa, that league, that group has also played matches in the US, I believe. So like for these kind of teams, it's going to be completely different venue, right? That's number one. I think spin will come more into play, right? India has gone with basically four quicks and spinners have hardly had any dent. And I think Kuldeep is just sort of rotting on the sidelines, but that was a right decision for the New York pitch. But now in West Indies, if the spinners have something, I mean, I think Zampa's doing pretty well, right? So clearly, someone like Kuldeep will do well. So I think we should expect that kind of change. And I think the other thing is, from an Indian perspective, do they get someone like Jaiswal in the side now, right? At the
Exactly.
cost of someone else, right? So I think we should expect some changes to not just India, but the other sides too, as the conditions change in the Super 8s.
Right. All right.
Alrighty.
All right. This is a good wrap up. Thanks, Amit, again for your insight. And I will publish this tomorrow. I think it's getting late up on the East Coast, so I'll do that tomorrow. Thank you
Sounds
so
good,
much.
man.
All
Take
right.
care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Primo will be back soon.